What's up, guys? Today we're talking about igniter replacement. There are many different types of igniters, but if you're going with an OEM replacement, they install just like they come out. Here at Lund, we stock universal igniters in our truck. These igniters will replace almost every igniter out there. Before we go over installation, this is what we need to know about igniters. They come in 80, 120, or 220 volts. An 80 volt igniter doesn't test at 80 volts consistently. When testing the igniter, you'll notice the voltage jumps from 80 volts to 120 volts and anywhere in between. It kind of just jumps up and down and up and down. They are little resistance heaters, so when voltage is applied, the resistance of the material can produce heat up to 2500 degrees. You can determine the voltage of an igniter by calling for heat, letting the furnace go through its startup sequence until it gets to the igniter period, having your tester on the wires that come from the board to the igniter, and seeing what voltage goes to the igniter at that time. The igniter does not always have power. It is only energized when the board calls for it to be energized. Now that we know a little bit about igniters, let's get into it. First off, we want to check for codes. If we have an ignition fault code, this could be a possible explanation. To troubleshoot, I'm going to have the thermostat call for heat and pay attention to the starting sequence. Once you get to the ignition part of that sequence, if the igniter does not glow and the gas comes on then shuts off, chances are it's probably the igniter. From here, we're just going to take a look at the igniter. This one you can see has a crack in it. That is a clear indication that the igniter itself is bad. That being said, keep in mind, not all igniters are going to crack like this. Whether it has a crack or not, we need to test for power. If you do have power and it's not glowing, the igniter is bad. To test for power, we're going to put one lead in each wire going to the igniter, select volts AC on our meter, and wait for our igniter to call for power. As you can see, this one's reading 120 volts, so we know we have voltage, and we also know what voltage the new igniter will have to be. Like I said earlier in the video, the 110 volt igniters, most of them can be replaced with glow flies that we carry on the truck. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one out of here. This one is pretty easy to pull out. Just got the two screws up top there. And as you slide igniters out, especially if they're not broken and you just need to get them out to clean the burner tubes, they are very fragile. So make sure you don't hit them on the metal, don't bang them around, or those ceramic pieces on the top will break off. You can see here that crack. You can also see how white the igniter is. This is a good indicator of the life of the igniter. If it's super white like this and you're on a service call or maintenance, it would be worth it bringing it up to the customer, seeing if they want that swapped out proactively. Now that we've got everything out, we need to unbox our Glowfly igniter. This is everything it comes with. It comes with a bunch of mounts, a paper to tell you which mounts to use with which igniter model, and the igniter itself. If you don't have the igniter model or the model's not in the book, just match one up. You can see the igniter slips up into all these mounts the same and screws in there. I just look for one that's the same height, mounts the same, and looks like the hot spot will hit the flame in the same spot as the old igniter. Once I have that mount selected, I can start taking the old one apart. This one happens to just come off by this little nut back here. There's also a flathead screw in the front. I'll take that off. Then I can slide the old igniter out of place and make room for the new one. I can then put the screw and the nut back on, slip my mount that came in the Glowfly kit back in behind the nut there, and snug everything down. I can then put my igniter up through the mount and screw that into place as well. Now we can go ahead and reinstall our igniter. Like I mentioned before, these are very fragile, so when putting them into place, make sure you don't hit the burner tubes or the heat exchanger. More fragile igniters can break from the impact of your drill as well, so when putting in the screws, make sure you take it slow. Once we got the igniter all mounted up, we want to check the igniter itself. We want it to be pretty close to the burner tubes. No chance it'll touch the burner tube and no chance it'll touch the heat exchanger. Now that the igniter is mounted, it's time for wiring. You can see here, there's two leads coming from the igniter and a plug coming from the furnace. I personally like to keep the plug there for testing purposes, so I cut it off the old igniter, wire nut it onto the new wires, and I can plug it right back in. If there is no plug to start with, simply cut the wires going to the igniter and wire nut the new ones right back onto the old ones. Now make sure those wires are cleaned up and out of the way. Turn the furnace on, call for heat, and wait for that igniter to start glowing, gas to start flowing, and the flame to light. It's important to watch the flames ignite as well. You don't want the gas to go and then the flame to come too far behind it. As you can see, when the gas starts flowing in this video, the flame lights right up all the way across. If gas is going and it takes a while to light, chances are your igniter is not in the right spot or not close enough to the burner tubes and may need adjustment. As always, for help, contact your service coordinator, and now you know how to change out an igniter. Thanks for watching.